Well, hello everybody, I'm Troy. A question I get asked all the time is how much feed should I give our little shovel-nosed friends? How much should we feed our pigs? And it's a kind of a loaded question. There's a lot of variables that go into that. But in this video, I want to talk about that and even some of the variables associated with pig feed when it comes to things like soaking and fermenting, all of those. So come along, we're going to discuss it as we put together our new fermenting system. Well, the simple answer to the feed ration question is really 3 to 5 pounds per day per pig for a good maintenance ration. So if that's all you're looking for, you can actually stop the video now. But if you want to explore the variables and how that changes, then stick with me here. I'll take care of the ladies here. Oh, looks like it was spa day today at Red Tool House. Everyone's had a little mud bath. Excuse me. So these girls right now, these are our breeding sows, and of course Merida is our farm fixture now. And they are getting about 15 pounds. So 15 pounds, of course 5 pounds, 3 of them, that works out to 15 pounds. And they're on a little bit of a weight loss regimen, so I've been trying to scale that back a little bit because I need the 2 large blacks to lose a little weight. She's doing pretty good. She still has a ways to go. So when it comes to our feeder pigs, the ones that we are growing out for processing, then that ration is actually the same. It's roughly about 5 pounds per pig. There are 11 pigs here, so I've weighed out, or I've rationed out, about 55 pounds of feed. Each bucket that I have is about 27 pounds, give or take. And that's where we get this number. But the difference is between what the piglets get, or the feeders get, and the sows get, is the protein amount. So I feed out a 16% ration to our feeder pigs. That's 16% crude protein. And the sows and the boars get a 12% crude protein. So the weight, the amount of feed is the same. It's just the protein amount is higher in what we're doing with the feeder pigs. Dump another bucket here. Feisty things. Oh, look at all the little baby mosquitoes. So the first thing I'd recommend to properly ration your pig feed, of course, is get a system down so you're not having to weigh your feed every day. Obviously that would be asinine. So whether it's determining how much a scoop that you use, a coffee can, or even the bucket you carry. So in that situation, I wanted to use our 5-gallon buckets as the standard unit of measure. So it's quite simple. All I do is take our bathroom scale, I set it down in the garage, took an empty bucket in my hand, stood on the scale, and that gave me a base weight, filled up the bucket of feed, stood back on the scale with that bucket, and of course did the math. I was going to have Kelly demonstrate that, but she refused to let the tare weight be shown on camera, so, we'll forego any visuals there. So the issue I'm running into now is going back to my fermentation process, which we've done a video on this before, I'll link to it here. But going back to my fermentation process, adding feed to the bucket before it's soaked and before it ferments, so it swells and it changes all the consistency, it's easy to ration that. But when it comes time to scoop it back out, then that's the part I need to figure out, is how much is still that 3 to 5 pounds, or 5 pounds is what we're shooting for. So what we're going to do is get our barrels ready here, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do a loose experiment to get an idea of just how much 55 pounds of feed changes in bulk as far as swelling goes in our barrel. And then So I didn't realize that my wireless mic was turned off, so I'm going to have to do some overdub narration here. Obviously what we needed is some water, and I have a 275 gallon IBC tote here that's catching rainwater off the barn and off the workshop. So it's ready to go. Attached a small section of hose, and then attached my inline pump. This is my 14 pump. I've featured this on the channel before. And then attached a larger garden hose to it. Washed out my barrels a little bit there. And then put the equivalent of 55 pounds of dry feed in there. And I know that, again, because each bucket is roughly 27 pounds. So I put 2 full buckets in there and ready to add water. So I wasn't really worried about adding too much water to that. In fact, I wanted to make sure I added enough water. And that's a good thing about these food grade white barrels, is you can see through them so well. And I don't think it's showing up on the camera, but I can see the feed line and the water line above it. So what should happen now, much like me having an intimate encounter with poison ivy, is there should be some considerable swelling. So when I come down tomorrow, the feed should have expanded as much as it should, being soaked in. And then we'll pick up there and I'll show you what my plan is going forward. Well, I'd like to take a quick second to thank the sponsor of this video, and that's Brunt Footwear. Brunt reached out to me about 2 months ago and wanted me to try one of their pair of boots. So I looked at their selection, which they have a pretty broad selection, and I chose a composite toe boot. And I received those 2 months ago. I introduced these boots in a video a while back, so you can see them in this clip where they're nice and shiny and brand new, as opposed to what they look like now. And I've been wearing them. If you go back through the videos in the last 2 months, you'll see me wearing these boots. I've been wearing them for all my outdoor projects to really try them out, break them in, and give them a good run. Now, I've been happy with the last pair of boots that I've had from another boot company, but I'm always looking to find good quality boots that are going to last. And I was curious to see if Brunt was going to do that. The boot that I selected and tried out is a comp toe. So it's not a steel toe, but it's not a soft toe either. So it's like a hard plastic composition toe, which I like that in between. It keeps it from being way too heavy for a steel toe, but you have the protection. So if you've got a 600-pound hog step on your foot, it doesn't hurt. Or if you roll a log off the sawmill onto your toe, then you're still in good shape. You can keep the day going. The fact that it's so light allows me that if I'm walking through the woods or doing some stuff on the back of the property where there's a lot of walking around, then I'm not fatigued by the weight of the boot. This boot is a lace-up style and is waterproof, and it did have a break-in period. I say the first 2 times I wore it, it was a little uncomfortable. In fact, I was a little concerned. But after that second day, they really started to break in, be pliable. My dad had always told me, go stand in the creek with a new pair of boots on and it'll stretch the leather. I didn't do that, so I probably should have done that. But really happy with how they've broken in. I could wear them all day without any issues, and they've really become quite supple and good to wear. Brunt is an American company. Now they are still, the boot themselves is still manufactured overseas, but it is an American company, so you're spending American dollars with an American company. And they do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. I'm going to put a link below so you can check them out. There's a discount as well if you use our promotion code there that you can take advantage of. And you'll continue to see me wear these boots because these are the ones I'm going to try out for a while. I'm going to try these out for a whole season and just see how they go. But so far, I've been very impressed. All right, so instead of fast forward 1 day, fast forward 2 days. We had a total rain out yesterday, so I wasn't going to come down and work in the rain. But let me show you what we've got here and the amount of swelling that's happened in this feed. It's tremendous. And clearly I neglected to put a lid on it. I didn't think the critters would find it that fast, but they have found it. So that's why there's footy prints on it. But it has more than doubled, maybe even quadrupled in size here. So we'll see what that translates to in bucket loads. Get my buckets to separate. Oh my goodness. I believe we've got a squirrel. All right, so maybe I exaggerated a little bit. So that's about, so 2 heaping buckets and a half of another. I'd say with all the feed I got scattered around and the little squirrel trail going up the side of the post here, I would say we're probably, the safe estimate, let's say we increased our volume by an additional 50%. So I'm going to say 3 buckets total. I don't know that a squirrel ate a half bucket of feed in 36 hours, but maybe he did. Anyway, but it's substantial, and then of course the weight. So now we got all that water soaked in, and there's no standing water in this barrel whatsoever. So not only the copious amounts of water that I added, but then even the, what do we get? Half-inch of rain that we got yesterday added to that, and it still could stand to be a little bit more damp. But I like what we've got there. So now I'm going to set them both up, and I know exactly how much I'm going to feed. So to equate to the 5 pounds per pig for 11 pigs, I'm going to do 3 full buckets going forward. So that's the ratio. So that's the measurement I'm going to use with feeding out the pigs with soaked and fermented grain. And behind you all, the pigs are all eyeballing me. They can smell it, I think. So I'm going to add 200 pounds of dry feed to both barrels. And in my experience in the past, that is about as much as you can get before it swells up over the edge. In fact, anything more than that, you're going to have issues. But one thing I've learned in this, if you're going to do a setup like this, deep barrel, that much feed, add your water first. It's much easier to add feed to water than it is to add water to feed, because it takes a long, long time for that water to soak down, especially if you're using this kind of powdered feed. If it's more full grain or just cracked corn, then it's going to trickle down faster. But I found it much easier to add the water first, then put grain on top of it. Got water going everywhere except in the barrel. Sucker puts out some pressure now. I think while this fills up, I'm going to go feed the little devils over here in the new spot. Come on, you split-hoof spawns of Satan. Pump will sling some water now. So I don't exactly remember my water to feed ratio since it's been a while. So we'll see how this goes. One, One again, A little too much water in that one. All right, so that just took a little bit of time for all that to settle in. and it's going to soak up more and more and expand, of course. And my previous fermenting video from like 2 years ago, someone just recently asked, how did you actually start the fermenting process? What did you have to add? Well, there's no additive that has to be done. There's no additional inputs. With all the natural yeast in the air and all that fun stuff, it's just going to start to ferment. That's like when you have an apple orchard and you pick up all your rotten apples on the ground and you put them over in a corner and you notice the songbirds are drunk for a couple days. Natural fermentation happens there. So that's what's going to happen here. There's going to be some swelling. This one's probably going to swell a little too much. This one I think will be okay. Probably the biggest benefit I see to fermentation is just the reduction of waste. The pigs really enjoy it. When they've got the wet morsels like that, they suck every single one of them up. They just lick them all up. That's why I didn't mind feeding them on the ground. If you feed powdered feed like this and you feed it dry in your feed spot, you'll notice that within a couple days, it just looks like somebody dusted the whole area with flour. So just a lot of waste of material there. I think the extra labor put into making this, soak this grain, get it fermenting and managing all that, I think it's worth the waste that you don't have on the ground, and of course the waste you don't have just passing completely through the pig's digestive system. So we'll keep this process rolling and probably detail it throughout the season, through the life cycle of our piglets, and I'll keep you guys up to date on that. Speaking of piglets, if you're not aware, we have a podcast. It's called the Pastured Pig Podcast, and it focuses specifically on pastured pigs. We just celebrated our 100th episode one episode ago, so I think we're 101. So we've got over 100 episodes in the bank, and I'll link to that below. We have a website that's associated with that, specifically thepasturedpig.com, and you can check all that out there. Also, if you're not aware, we have a Red Tool House email newsletter that just talks about some of the additional stuff that we're doing here, some tips that we throw out there, some additional information. We're kind of ramping that back up in 2023, so be sure to check that out. There's links below in the video description where you can connect to that. All right, well, I appreciate everybody watching. Y'all take care.